Okay, cool.
Recording has started.
Great.
I'll watch for questions.
Sounds good. I'm just waiting for it. Yes, we pulled up on live. Great. Thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to get started here in just a minute or two, but I'm here with my wonderful assistant team leader, Deborah Bell, and we're going to be going over how to prepare your CMA. So get your questions ready, get your logins all set up, and we're going to get started in just a minute.
And you're going to also show where the listing presentation, don't forget.
Yes. Great. Okay, I say we just get started, right? It's time. We like to start things on time. Okay, so just again, thank you guys for joining us. It's me, Halley Wright, team leader of Keller Williams Coastal Properties, and we have my assistant team leader, Deborah Bell, over here with me. Fantastic extraordinaire. I'm so happy to have her join me. So we're going to talk a little bit about CMAs, how to prepare, how to run one. I'm also going to be going through the Cloud CMA system as best that I can without being a Cloud CMA expert. But we're going to talk a little bit about pricing strategy and how that's changed right now in this market, and how that affects your business, right? So Deborah Bell, explain to me just a little bit, like, what is a CMA? What does it stand for, right? 3 words just for us folks here together.
Sure. So the CMA is a competitive market analysis, and the purpose is to look at properties that are currently on the market, pending, and recent solds. It's not an appraisal, but it is giving you a I hate to say a ballpark, but it's going to give you a range of pricing that'll best suit the listing that you might be meeting with the sellers about.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great description. Again, it stands for comparative market analysis. And so that's going to, again, break down how much you are thinking in regards to pricing and making sure you're in alignment with the market, right? Isn't that what we ultimately want, is alignment? So there are several different ways you can do this. Some people forgo any and all technology. And I think that is such a, for lack of a better word, old school way of thinking. There are
I was
so
about to
many,
say the
yeah.
same, which is where I am, old school.
Oh no, I think that there are great things old school and new school can bring us. But some people still do their CMAs without having an actual technology-based platform behind them. So what's an example of a technology-based platform? There are 2 main ones that people use for CMAs, and that's going to be Cloud CMA, which is provided free for you to use under most MLS memberships, or there is Dash CMA, which is a completely different program. And let me tell you, go back and watch some of the videos that Karen Abrams, the creator of Dash CMA, has made. It's a fantastic new program that I personally can't wait to get to know better, but I'm mostly familiar with Cloud CMA. So the whole point is you're basically showing your subject property, right? So you're taking an address and you're comparing its value to other houses for sale or pending in the area, and then giving a certain dollar amount or a scale of what that home should be sold on in the open market, right? So let me just pull this up really quick. And again, just to reiterate, if you guys have any questions, please type them here on Facebook. Deborah and I are watching it very closely. So just log on here and just share your questions and we'll get to them as soon as possible, right? So what we're going to do is we're essentially going to, Deborah and I are going to create a mock CMA through Cloud CMA today. So at any point, again, if you have questions, just reach out. So let me share my screen here. Okay, great. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. When it's small, it helps me if you audibly say yes.
Right, exactly.
Nodding your head and going, yeah, I can see it. Okay, great. Perfect. Hopefully it just pops up on Facebook. So this, you guys, is your MLS dashboard, right? So most of you are familiar with this portion right here. Now, not all new agents in particular are familiar with the different types of programs that come with your MLS, basically your MLS membership, right? Whatever that is, whatever board you're a part of. So the easiest way to get to, we're going to go through the program Cloud CMA for right now. Again, this is one of two. Is you just click this little box down here, external links. It's super easy. It's on your main homepage. And that's going to pull up your Cloud CMA. Cool. So this is going to talk about all the recent reports that you've made and when it was done. It's going to pull up your most recent, 5 or 6 on your actual dashboard. So we're going to make a CMA and we're going to create a new report. Okay. Now, it's kind of cool. There are other options. You can do a property report, a flyer, but then again, we do have our marketing team here that can help you, or a buyer tour, but perfect. So let me click CMA. Really easy. Got it. So we're going to want to name the report. So I always try to name it. If you know the client's name, you can put it here if you want as the client. You can also put yourself as a client if you don't want your client's information on there, but you definitely need to know your subject property. So I'm going to be running this report for myself. I'm going to pretend like I'm the buyer, right? So I'm going to put in my information here. Great. And again, private notes are not going to appear in the report. So essentially we are generating this final product here. So Deborah, you said let's use the subject property. So what address should we use here?
Let's go with 430 Radcliffe, Radcliffe Court, and that's in Laguna Beach.
Look, most of them already populate, which is fantastic. Much easier.
This is Kim.
Yeah, Kim?
Yes.
Is there any way to make the screen a little bit larger? Your screen?
What if I zoom in?
Oh, we just had a couple comments that it seems small.
If you guys are watching on Facebook, one thing that does help is if you're watching from a phone, turn your phone to the side. Does that make sense? So instead of watching it up and down, turn it to the side. It might be landscape. I did zoom in here and I'll try to zoom in as much as possible in regards to the smallness, but otherwise try watching it on your laptop, right?
Yeah,
it helps. Okay. I'm looking at a little bit on the side that might help there. Okay, great. So subject properties. So Deborah hasn't even stepped foot. Let's say Deborah's going on this listing appointment, right? She hasn't even stepped foot into the property, and all of a sudden, just by knowing the address, she knows how many square foot, bed, and bath that there are. Now, where is that pulling from? Where is that information coming from? The tax data. Okay, so you're always going to see here, it's going to say tax data found. So anything pre-filled in purple is what came from the tax records. Now, Deborah, is this house really a 2-bed, 2-bath?
It is.
Okay, perfect. Why is it important to ask that question?
Well, you're going to be comparing apples to apples, not apples to oranges.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The tax records may not reflect any investments or changes that they've done on the property. Say they've added in a second bedroom and it just hasn't hit the tax records yet, or they've added on a third bedroom, it hasn't hit the tax records, or they turned one of those bedrooms or added a half bath. All of that stuff needs to be verified. And so we'll talk a little bit about strategy here too. So you can add a cover photo. I always say the best thing to do is drive by the property before you actually go and snap a little photo on your phone. Make it be your own photo. People are always super impressed by that because they go, "Where'd you get that picture?" Right? They're going to go, "Where'd you find that picture of my house?" And you can say, "Well, as I was driving through the neighborhood and I was previewing the comps in the area, I decided that I would make your CMA more custom and wanted to make sure that I got an exterior photo of the house." Right? So, Deborah, is there any other advanced info that residential, is there a property subtype? You can hit advanced info, which is going to change anything else, the number of garages.
This all looks accurate there.
Good, good. But again, it is still important that even if it is 100% accurate, always double check that because again, it's pulling from the tax data and it doesn't always reflect the correct square footage, for example, or the lot size in itself. And your sellers will be very grumpy if their lot size is, 2,200 square feet and it shows on your CMA it says 2,100. So
right.
Definitely always ask that question. Okay, perfect. So I'm not going to add a cover photo right now because I don't have any photos on my phone of this property. I'm a bad agent, right? So, Deborah, talk to me about finding your comps. Okay. How do you find comps? What is your thought process here? What is the strategy, if you have any, in regards to creating a CMA? Because you do use Cloud CMA, correct?
I have used it, but you used that word old school. And so I have been accustomed in the past. Of course, we didn't have all the technology. I've been doing this since '87. So, I'm looking for properties that are going to be similar square footage. I'll give a range. I want to see similar lot sizes. Again, a range of maybe 300 on either side of what's listed in the tax records. So I want to work with those kind of comps that are that don't have major extremes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I
want to say something too. I know with a lot of the new agents, they think that we should give it a price to start with. A lot of times I've come up against that, and we're creating that now. But if we put in a price range that I only want to see properties from this price to this price, now you've determined it not based on any of the research, but just given what you think it could be. So instead, we want to pick and choose after using the criteria that would be comparable.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you're presenting this to your sellers, I always give a bit of a range, to be quite honest with you. Right. I hardly ever give this is exactly how much your home is worth, because we know through a lot of different strategies that timelines affect pricing, right? The market affects pricing. The terms that you're accepting the offer affects pricing. So I always do give a bit of wiggle room there because usually people are very opinionated about how much they want to sell their home for or how much they're willing to let go and part with it. But Deborah's absolutely right. So in Cloud CMA, again, this is not a Cloud CMA tutorial, but it does make it easy to be able to pull your comps that you're using for the area. And again, the word comps, it's comparable properties, right? Comparable sales, right? So you can do there's a couple of different strategies behind this, right? One, you can choose the exact listings here, right? So you can put in the MLS ID numbers right here. You could pick all 10 properties. I suggest getting as many comps as you can, but try to keep it under 10, right? Always try to keep it under 10. I think once you go over 10, you're getting some convoluted numbers because then maybe they really truly aren't comparable properties, right? They might be a little bit too different. But let's say you just have 3 really good Maybe this is a tract home. Maybe this is, something that's a model with a specific architect, and there's lots of homes, for sale with similar square footage and baths, but there's only 4 recent comps, and just use 4 and put that in here if you want. So let's say I don't know what comps that I want to use. I don't want to do that research. So you can choose things here by proximity to the property. You can get at least 10 listings. You can go up to 50, but like I said, I think once you get over 10, you're really kind of getting into the messiness of it. Exactly. It's not clean. So go back only over the last 6 months. So why is this timeline important, right? So think about the last 6 months, everything that's happened. Do you think that something sold in February is the same price and is comparable to something that's going on the market in August? No. COVID. This little thing called COVID happened, right? So we have to keep in mind that, especially during a pandemic, and we're living through a very unique time, this has to reflect in our pricing, okay? So for this, I might start by going back a little less time, because I think that stuff priced in January and February of 2020, even December of 2019, isn't necessarily reflecting the current market rates of the area. And I think most people can agree with that statement, right? So I might try doing something for less at first, maybe something like 4 or 5 months at first, and then seeing if we pull up any subject properties. Does that make sense? Deborah, do you have a rule of thumb by doing that at all, or?
Exactly what you're saying is I typically look at 6 in a different market. We would possibly go back a year if we couldn't find sales in 6. However, this market that we're in right now, we've had so much change and challenge with COVID, and sales did pick up. So in the last 3 to 4 months is probably the smarter base for the comps. Totally agree.
And play around with it, right? Nothing is final. Nothing's final. You can always edit this report. So if it pulls comps, we're going to get to a page here in a second where you're going to see fetch listings.
And I like what you were saying too about only 10 comps. The more you have, the more challenge you start to create in trying to figure out pricing. If you get that many, you could add a few more items to your criteria to allow you to shrink that and get it closer to the subject.
Absolutely. So, okay, so let's look here. So these are the comps that it automatically pulled up, okay? So you're going to see here a summary of list. Active, let me move this, that way I can see. Okay, so there are 6 active listings. There are 2 under contract, and there are 2 recently sold. Now, again, I think this is pandemic related, but I think that using pending sales, active under contract sales, are getting more and more common when it comes to appraisals. Now, you have to keep in mind that when you actually go through the appraisal itself, that you as the buyer's agent may need to advocate for why something is, or being the agent, that you may need to advocate why something is priced that in that way. Now, that's because we are still having limited inventory. Okay. Now, you can't use stuff for pricing saying, okay, this home was sold, or this home went under contract for 1.2 million and it has 50 offers and for 1.4 million, so I'm going to start out at 1.4 million. No, that's not how it works, right? But if the property started out as 1.2 million and then went into contract at 1.4 million, that's something that you can use as a comp, in my opinion, and most appraisers hopefully will agree, right? Do you have a comment with that, Deborah?
Nope, I'm completely on board with that.
Awesome. Cool. So this is going to give you a list of the summary of prices. So With our subject property, we don't quite know what we're going to do with pricing yet. So you can add in here a price guide, and this is going to show you the suggested range based on the averages in the area. You can also put in here your net sheets, so netting to seller. That's something if you want to sit down and put all the numbers in, you can do that. You can get the information from your favorite coast. In our case, it's Coastal Escrow, and then in Calabasas' case, I think it's Parkway Escrow. You can ask them for that information. They'll absolutely show it to you. So this is going to give us some type of range since we don't have a set dollar amount, right? So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at the comps that it pulled and figure out which ones we actually want to use. So this is all of the, in the last, 4 months, I think is what I had it for.
Yes.
These are all the solds in the area. Now it's excluding some of these and it's including others of these, right? So as we know in most areas and places, price value changes from neighborhood to neighborhood. So I'm not super familiar with this area in Laguna Beach, so I couldn't tell you. But do you think that this $2.4 million home is priced a little bit differently than this what's the six something comp, right? 688 comp. That's
Right.
completely different, right? Completely different. So we
And
have
location plays a big point too.
Absolutely. Location plays a big point. So you have to keep that in mind when it comes to actually pricing, right? Look at actual geographic location. And again, it is important for you to drive the neighborhood before you go on a listing appointment so you're aware of those things that are happening. So we do have a pending right here, which is great. So Deborah, give me where's our actual subject property?
Radcliffe, it's drop down. It should be, let me see.
Not that far.
No, it's going to be, it's 1299. So if you see maybe that 13, yeah, Ruby, that should be it. Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Whoop, whoop.
So, yeah, this is a good one because it's active under contract. Great job, right? Okay, so normally this one wouldn't necessarily pop up as a recent sale, but we just chose it to use this, but it is providing us this as a comp, which is good. So if you zoom in here, this is probably a better estimate when it comes to comps and pricing. You have these several properties here, right? So I always say click on each of the properties and figure out why they did or didn't sell and whether or not they're going into contract for the price that they were actually listed at. So let's scroll down here and look at these comps that it's including here. So this one, look, you can, details and adjustments, great. So each one of these, you can pull up the actual MLS listing. You can look at this is a gorgeous property.
Yeah, that one was really nice.
Yeah, that
Great
was super nice.
views.
Yeah, it's super pretty. I love it. Oh, and that nice car in the driveway.
Yeah, right.
That's great.
Little bonus. Little bonus.
Right. So, excuse me. So these are some of the things that you want to keep in mind right here. So look at the list price, original list price, and sold price. Okay. So right here, this original list price was higher than what it actually sold for. Okay. So as an agent, I try to glean why that happened. Right? Was it that the seller had to sell right away because they were moving out of state? Is it that they overpriced the property, depending on the actual average itself? Try to gather that information before you go on your listing appointment. So it's going to show all the information in here that was on the MLS listing. So you can go through and say, oh, yeah, it sold for less because it only has two parking than where our subject property has 4 parking spaces or whatever. You can really get down to the nitty gritty, even with the landscaping. And then again with adjusted price. So I always go in here and I figure out which comps I want to use. So Deborah, I think this one's good.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously this one's good because this is your property. Right, this is good. So this is the pricing. So I'm curious, Center Court, which one's that one? Okay, Center Street. Yeah, see this, I don't know. I almost think this one might be a good one. 271. Yeah, that's great. By the way, never do this. Do you see what this person put in here?
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's not necessary.
look at its list price, right? Look at its list price, which is right there. So
Right.
just by the way,
So you just really undersold the property. And what did it end up selling for? Oh, it's active under contract right now.
oh, right, right. So it's active under contract. So we don't know how much it's actually selling for. That would
Right.
be a good question. I absolutely would call this agent. I would absolutely call this agent and I would ask, why is there a big price adjustment? Because look, if they're willing to accept 1.395, you're coming up here with your subject property, which luckily we know is listed, and you're right here in this price range. That could be very good competition for you
Right.
if
And
they're
it's
willing to accept that.
good point that you made there, Hallie, about calling the agent. So many times, agents, especially our new ones, they don't feel like they're supposed to reach out and talk to the other agent, and you will gain so much information. You have no idea how many times I've had calls from appraisers asking about a particular property that I had listed and sold. And if I'm going out on a listing appointment and there's something that's just not quite right, I definitely am going to reach out to that listing agent and get a little more insight as to why they listed at a certain price or why it sold for a certain price. And you'll be surprised how many agents are willing to share to help you.
Right. And, it's truly about being in alignment with the market. That's our ultimate goal is to be in alignment with things. So you need to know, just like Deborah said, are they selling because they have to get out of state? Are they selling because they're in a poor financial situation? They lost their job or someone has a medical condition. And that means they were willing to take a price reduction. So something I tend to look at too when I'm pricing, I also try to always look at the average list per square foot, the list price per square foot. It gives me an example of whether or not especially when I go into my pricing, if I'm falling amongst the average. Because believe it or not, the consumer looks at that quite often when it comes to average price per square foot. We use it in a lot of our marketing here as agents. So in my opinion, I think it's priced, priced right. So we're going to use this as a comp. This one, see, I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily use this one as a comp. Would you agree? I don't know if it's
Yeah, I'm trying to remember okay, so that lot size is 3750 and we're at 21.
right.
And, this is prime real estate down at the beach area.
Right. So I would probably unclick this, in my opinion. I would not count this as a comp
Correct. I
because
agree.
if you look at here, it's in a little bit different area, right? It has a bigger lot size. It's a lot bigger. And it does have a lot of space in it, a lot of space. I mean, it is
Nice.
beautiful.
Isn't it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. They really staged it well. I think it's had
Yeah.
upgrades that are more recent
Yeah.
than the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd probably unclick that. Um, and then go in here, and look at some of these other ones. See, I don't know. Um, I mean, this is a completely different property in my opinion.
And
It's
it's
got
that lot size is double. Radcliffe, that one's at 4545.
right, 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 right. So let's see the other ones. So we've got this. We've got what other ones do we have in here that we're using? See, I don't know if I would
Still too high.
count
Yeah.
count these ones here too. Again,
Okay. Yeah, no.
this is in an oceanfront condo, so I definitely wouldn't include condos if you're doing a single family home because that's single family, right? The 2-2.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So that's something I wouldn't use if it was a condo. Yep.
That might
This
be
is
the same
another
development
condo.
there. And then the
Uh,
next two, I think, look like three.
yeah. Unclick this here. Um, See, a lot of these are going to be condos. So
Yeah,
that's
they
where
all look
you
like it.
do have a harder time here when you are pricing a single family home. So let's say we're getting ready to price this, right? That Deborah's, getting this all together. And Deborah, most of the comps that are coming up are maybe let's go by the map. Most of the comps that are coming up are going to be condos, beachfront property stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this might be a good one to include. It's on Radcliffe. It's on the same street,
It is. Yep,
right? Yep. So I
exactly.
think that would be a good one to include. Um, this one might be okay, the Center Street one. I know
Mm-hmm.
we talked about that one. I think that one would be okay to include. Um, yeah, so far, those are the ones we've got. Okay. So we picked the comps that we want. We're going to go through. This is a condo too. I think I'm going to take that one off. Okay, great. All we do is hit customized report. Do, 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 do. There we go. Okay, you guys. So here's what's really awesome. Now we're getting into the customization part. So we have the comps, we have the information on the property beforehand. So this is something that's really new that I'm excited if you guys aren't used here. Okay. There is a KW forward living theme because I love forward living. I think I find so much value in the power of being the number one market center or the number one group in the LA, in the greater LA area, so they say. So I find a lot of that. So the front of the report shows an aerial map view, but if you took a picture like we talked about in the beginning of the report, it would show up right there in the front. So this is going to show us a little bit about the KW Forward Living. I think that there are custom themes. Let's see if we have, I believe you can do a team one, and you can pull this up. This is thinking. No, let's go back. I want to keep with the Forward Living one. Okay, so,
Too far.
of course, and it
Oh, you have
re-clicked.
to unclick them all again.
I'm sorry, guys. I hit back. I'm sorry.
So
I failed. Okay. That
everything
one.
is trial and error, remember?
It totally is. Okay, great. I'm gonna include this one. And I'm gonna include this one. Great. Okay. Okay, so customized report. Let's choose the forward living section here. So I chose forward living because, like I said, I find a lot of power to that. You can choose the layout. You can, in my opinion, I just print them out and try it. Just see what works for you, right? And then the default template in itself. So these, by choosing the Keller Williams forward living theme, it's going to load all of these pages in your CMA, which is basically your listing presentation, right? This is a total and complete listing presentation. So each one of these pages is something different, and you can reorder them, right? So we have our cover page, our Keller Williams concierge service. By hitting that little eyelet guy, it's going to show you what the actual page looks like. If you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I like it or not, that's right there. You can do, again, we have a lot of information about the concierge. I think it's very valuable. But you can choose to put it in a different part of your listing presentation, or you can go down and talk about your 3D Matterport and the fact that, that's what a lot of homes are expecting right now. And that's a service that you can provide. And again, it's going to give you a lot of really interesting statistics. So you should know each one of these pages before you walk into your CMA.
Absolutely. And Halley, if I can add, this particular property, we did have the Matterport. These buyers were in the Midwest vacationing their annual summer vacation, and they wanted to put an offer in, but they were a little reluctant, a little hesitant. They did FaceTime. He looked at the Matterport a couple of times. They ended up putting the offer in, and they did their first walkthrough. We opened escrow last Friday. They did their first walkthrough on Sunday, and home inspections were today. So the Matterport helped really to sell this property. So make certain that you're utilizing those things.
Absolutely. So Mocha just asked, can we change the wording on any of the templates? No, unfortunately, we cannot, since these are custom built for the forward living group. They are not, but you can choose to take something off. So let's say I don't like this page. I'm like, I don't want to have value website features, right? Obviously it's important, but I don't want to show this. Okay. So all you do is just hit the negative here. Boom, it's out. Right? So even if you only want to use 1 or 2 pages of this that's provided to you with your CMA, that's completely okay to do. Okay? That's completely okay to do. Okay, so again, we're going to go through this. I'm just going to leave all this in here. I think if you guys haven't used it, go through page by page. Yeah, totally, Mocha, no problem. Always ask questions. No question's a bad question. Go through and print out a full one. In my opinion, go through, run a practice CMA, running a practice CMA that's happening right now, and just look through all the pages, right? Absolutely look through all the pages. Look what it says. Look at the ones you like. Look at the ones that you don't like. Okay. So I'm going to hit public support.
I'm going to reiterate too, Halley, you said looking at them, make certain you don't just look and see the prettiness, read it, understand it, because it is something that you may be questioned on at some point if you're not going to go verbatim page by page, and if you don't have knowledge, they may not have confidence in you.
Absolutely. And you don't need to use every page when you go on a listing appointment. Remember, we've talked about that before. Knowledge is power, and it gives you confidence. You may only use 1 page when you're going through the CMA. You may never even pull out your CMA because that's just the flow of the conversation. But have all those pages at the ready. It is a great thing to show your clients if they ask questions about it. It makes you look
impressive.
Prepared. It makes you look very prepared. Yeah. Great. So it sometimes takes a minute to be able to create. It's done already. That's how fast it is, right? So you can do it live. Let me do this. We want to view the PDF because I'm a person that likes to email and or send print stuff. So back in the day, before COVID, when we used to be able to bring printed things to appointments and we used to be able to touch papers back and forth. Excuse me, that was my favorite thing to do, right? You could print a CMA. We have these wonderful binders that are available to you guys where you can create your own, it's blurring it, where you can create your own custom book here that's branded that says Keller Williams. It's very simple. We have these available to you at the office. Patricia and I can make that happen. I used to print those out and then I bring them. It's very impressive, especially when you're looking at one of those luxury, houses like maybe, Deborah that you're dealing with in Calabasas. So here is the wonderful listing presentation, right? Again, we're going page by page. It's so robust. It looks so professional. Hang on, it's taking a second to load.
Very classy.
So classy. I mean, I love graphic designing. I pretend like I'm a graphic designer when I use Canva. I know anything to do with graphics designing. This is something I could not create. I mean, it just looks fantastic. It talks about drones. It talks about the Matterport. You have all this stuff. Excuse me. And then you're going to get into the property website. Oh, I'll create a single property website for you. Keller Williams Forward Living. Great. Let's keep going through. Let's find the good stuff. Okay. So pricing. So this is going to talk a little bit about pricing. Again, it's important when we're meeting with our clients that we're setting up expectations for what the market is looking like. Okay. So this is going to talk about pricing. Price to attract the right kind of buyers, right? So we talk about going into market value, making sure we're not going way above, making sure we're not going way below. So again, we're setting up expectations. This is talking about pricing misconceptions, right? What you paid, what your neighbor says, what another agent says, and what you need. I mean, this is a fantastic tool to be able to open this conversation comfortably, right? So This is talking about the difference in a buyer's market and a seller's market. The right price is important when most offers are received. If you want to be competitive, here's what you need to do, right? I'm committed to your success, Abraham Lincoln. I love that quote. And now we're getting into the CMA that we created. Okay, so all of that pre this was provided to you from our offices. So utilize it. Right? Own it, customize it. Some of those pages are fantastic. They're absolutely phenomenal. Excuse me. So here we're into the CMA. This is talking, yep. And again, like I said, please, please, please take a hero image of the property itself. So go in, take a little picture, even if it's on your iPhone, they take wonderful photos and put them right here in the front. Okay. So this is a map of our listings that we pulled here to comparable. Oh, great. And it didn't save my ones that I chose. That's okay.
Oh, it didn't. Yeah.
And
Those photos are still there.
I think because I went back and I didn't save it, I think it's
Yeah.
not wanting to do it. But yeah, so it's saying
wow.
right here. Yeah, we're saying right here.
So our pricing may not turn out to be pretty accurate right now, but we've got the process.
Right, we got the process. So this is talking about sold listings, active and active under contract. So it's very important that you describe that to your clients when you're going on the listing appointment. The difference between something being active, pending, and sold. Okay.
So you just brought a little bit of a taking me back in time when you're talking about pulling that picture in, and I'm watching these comments like, oh my gosh, this is all like generated for us so easily. Back in the day, we would go and we would take pictures of the subject and all the comps, take it to the Photoshop and have them print the 4x6s, and then take those 4x6s and paste them onto the pages that we needed because we wanted to show pictures. So we have it so easy and at our fingertips.
I know, it is so easy. I know. So don't be scared of it. Don't be scared of running CMAs. Don't be scared to have a price. Don't be scared of doing that. So like I said, in my opinion, I always look at the averages column when you're going to pricing and you're going in there, because again, you never want to be at the top of the market and you rarely want to be at the bottom of the market, particularly with what's happening right now. So I always kind of make sure that my average price per square foot is in alignment with the actual property itself, right? So scrolling down in here, it's going to break down your listings that you used as a subject property. Like I said, I accidentally clicked back, so it didn't save our progress by not including some of these. But it is so thorough, so your clients can really see, the properties, like Deborah was saying, really see the ins and outs of the properties. You can even choose features, which, there we go. So look at this. We're still on the same property here. Come in here and it's going to show you all of the pictures that were on the market or on the MLS. Okay. So it's really going to give you an accurate picture, you and your clients, accurate picture of why something is lower than what you're saying or why something is higher than the price that you're giving. Okay. It's going to allow them to see it yourself, particularly when you have sellers that you're setting these unrealistic expectations because they think their home is worth, worth $2 million or whatever. And, there's a ton of cosmetic work that needs to be done because, again, we're competing with what is already on the market. You can show them, look, this property has a remodeled bathroom. This property has an updated kitchen. Look, this property is staged. It's got XYZ. We need to be competitive with that. Okay.
It'll help you so much to convince them when you have those pictures.
Mm-hmm.
This is so pretty. The binder just will make this so first class.
I know, especially putting it in the book. I mean, you can just do plain, 3-ring bindery you guys. You don't necessarily have to do the nice unibinds, but this guy is a hard book. And
those are nice.
It's very affordable. This is like a notebook. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. So it's
it just adds to the beauty of the whole production here. So
utilize professional, especially if you're a new agent. every CMA that you do for a client when you
Yes.
go on a listing presentation should look this nice. You should put it in a Unibind because it's going to give you that confidence. It's going to look like you really know what you're doing, whether you do or you don't.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Fake
even if
it
you
till you
don't,
make it, right? Fake it till you make it.
it helps you to wing it beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So it did, like I said, since it didn't save, since I hit back, it did include those 10. So we do have quite a few comps in here, and that's why we're scrolling through. We should be almost near the end here. Boom. Okay. So at the end here is where you're putting your actual analysis of the property itself. Okay. So this is saying, this is giving you the total average of what's happening. It's just a little bit easier to be able to read in regards to all the properties. And the active listing price for our comps, the average is this amount. Okay, based on our comps. And like I said, had we maybe done a little bit better, and if it would have saved the comps
Sure.
itself, we probably would have gotten a different number. This is going to show you what's pending. Okay, and this shows you what's sold in the area. Okay, so had I put in a price there in the sold portion, it would have given me a number here at the end, but I didn't do that. Okay. Now, that's a strategy that sometimes I like to take if I haven't been into a property, particularly if I don't know what the seller has done to it, right?
Hmm.
Because we always do a walkthrough when we go on the listing presentation, always start out with a walkthrough of the property, right? It's great to meet you. I'd love to see what you've done with this home since you've moved in here, and then have them show around. This is going to give you a pretty accurate idea of sorry, thank you. Sorry, thanks, Sergeant. This is going to give you a pretty active idea of how of the average. Now, most clients can help you come to a good conclusion together. So you can give a number that you're comfortable with, or you can really focus on the CMA and give a very good representation of the average of what's happening on the market. What are your thoughts behind that, Deborah?
I agree. It's, right now the pricing that we're looking at, as we talked about, it was the last 4 months. Um, and because we had those extras in there, it's not going to we're not focusing on that right now. We're focusing on the process and pulling all the information together and then giving them a range. We don't determine, we as agents nor the sellers actually determine the price of the home. We're going to give them an idea, a range, and it's going to be the buyer. It's what is the buyer willing to pay and the seller willing to sell for. So, we come to terms at some point, hopefully. Yeah, you don't have to feel like you have to have an exact price. Give them a range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I think that's a great thing. It's really hard to give monetary, especially when agents first start off and you run your first CMA, right? The first thing I would say is practice, practice, practice. Run
Right.
CMAs all the time. Why not do a CMA for the house you live in, even if it's a rental or if you own it? Pick a house down the street, run a CMA for in my opinion, I first started doing this and practicing this was for my buyers. Okay.
Hmm.
I would run
Absolutely.
CMAs. I would run CMAs on the properties that we were going to look at that I thought might be a final choice for them. That gave
Right.
me a great experience of getting used to saying, when I'm walking onto a property with a buyer and going, I think it's a bit overpriced, knowing why it's overpriced. Why is it
Right.
overpriced?
Right. And
Right?
you could go into the MLS and pull up something that's closed or something that's listed and just practice the CMAs. Not only practicing to get pricing comfort, but practice it to get the cloud CMA comfort. So
Mm-hmm.
there's
Also, yeah.
we don't just jump into action. We need to practice, practice, practice.
Mm-hmm.
Did you
And
happen
we
to
just
see?
went through.
Marco had a couple questions.
Yeah. I'm gonna get to that. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, and also too, we just ran Cloud CMA. Dash CMA is fantastic. It's mostly virtual, and I freaking love it. Excuse my language. I'm just not familiar enough to show it to you guys right now, so I don't want to speak of something that I don't know about. So I spoke about what I'm familiar with. You know, don't let don't let what I was trying to say is don't let CMA scare you, right? There is no clear-cut answer, right? An extra bedroom does not add on $10,000. An extra bathroom or kitchen painting doesn't reflect the property an extra $5,000. There's no good, clear-cut answer. Okay? Does that make sense? So the best thing you can do is use your knowledge, use your resources that you have around you. If you're a brand new agent, you should be in the mentor program or coaching program. Use your coach and mentor as really good feedback. Run practice CMA. Say, hey, I'm doing my first CMA. Tell me if I'm right. Am I using the right subject properties? They absolutely will give you good feedback. But just practice, practice, practice is my best comment. So, would you use this net sheet or escrow's net sheet? Well, Mocha, I've never used the net sheet on Cloud CMA. I like providing a personal net sheet. Part of it is because I want to help build a relationship with my seller and my own escrow services, because I am very loyal when it comes to my services and people around me, and I like to build that rapport. Now, if you get a net sheet from your escrow company, it's going to be branded to them. It's going to have, like in our example where Mocha, where you're asking, it's going to have Sarah's contact info on it so they can go through and give her a call. You can use the net sheet on the Cloud CMA, and I'm not sure in regards to Dash CMA, but it's mainly going to give them numbers, profit and loss, where again, I'm trying to build that relationship because I want the seller to have a good relationship with the escrow company. Right.
Halley?
Yeah.
It's Kim. We have a question on the chat. What is a net sheet?
Yeah, so a net sheet is basically a sheet that is provided to a client. It can be a buyer or a seller that's going to give them their actual cost of sale in regards to the proceeds of the home. Does that make sense? So it's basically like, when you go and get a bid from a company, right? You're saying, okay, this is how much it's going to cost for you to do this. This is how much you're going to pay in fees. This is how much you're going to do this. Well, you owe X amount on your home. So we're going to take X amount and we're going to subtract your cost of doing a sale. And then we're going to give you a total down at the bottom, which is going to be what you are netting. Does that make sense? What you are netting from the transaction. That's why it's called a net sheet. They're very easy to do. Every single escrow officer within our company would love to be able to provide that to you. Very simple, usually done within an hour or two. And I always bring net sheets to appointments. This is off the topic of CMAs, but
it's important. It's part of it.
But it is important because it's linked to the CMAs. I always have my escrow run 2 to 3 different net sheets with different pricing.
And that's I was gonna say, I wanted to add to it that it's important that we let the sellers know this is an estimate based on the asking price, and it's going to depend on what day we close as to what the prorations will be on taxes, insurance, HOA fees, etc. So always remember to use that word estimate. That this is what we're looking, and then as we get an offer and open escrow, we'll provide you with an updated net sheet. But absolutely. I like the idea too of a couple different scenarios so that you're going to give them a range in pricing. Might as well give them a couple of scenarios on the net sheet to support the pricing.
Totally, Deborah. That's the whole point, right? Is that sometimes if you're giving that ratio of, sometimes it's within $10,000 to $20,000 difference, right? Of what, maybe if they fix up a little bit of the property, you could get an extra bid. If they don't want to touch it and they need it as fast as possible, you might be on the lower end. So provide those to them and have them in your back pocket. Don't pull them out right away. Have them as you're having this conversation with the pricing. You're going to get a feel for your seller when you're sitting down with them going through this CMA and preparing it. You're going to get a feel for if they think that, oh, these comps, I think my house is way nicer than these comps, then don't pull out your lowest net sheet. That that's not going to be a number that they want to see.
Right.
And also,
Right.
most escrow services are very conservative when it comes to providing their fees. They will always overestimate because they love under what is the comment, overperforming. No, I don't know, you know what I'm saying. Like they always like coming back with good news rather than having to
Right.
come back with bad news that you owe more money, right? So
Right.
I'm saying that again, usually your net sheets that you see before you take the listing are inflated based on timing and stuff, just like Deborah talked about, and then they are going to significantly change when you're actually in escrow. So that's a good one.
Cool.
Okay, how about any? Okay, let me see Mocha's stuff. Okay. Also, would you give them a price at the end? So we kind of talked about that a little bit, Mocha, that I usually give a range. Some people just give one flat out pricing that's going to be depending on your style. I usually go through pricing at the end because that's what people want to know. Usually their question, boom, boom, boom. So they're going to pay attention until you say that number. So never start it at the beginning of your CMA. Okay. Never start out with, here's what I think, and let me tell you why. You want to sit there and build that. This is what's happening. Set expectations in the market, do those things, but always put it at the end of your CMA. Never put it like on the front page. Okay. Alper said, you said do not include more than 10 comparables. Should there be a ratio active pending? Okay. So let me be clear. You can include as many comps as you want, right? You can include 100 on there if you even saw. You could do 100 comps, right? They changed that. This is a national company, so I mean, different markets are different, so you have to have different comparables. And so I say limit it to 10 because it can get really confusing and overwhelming as a seller. Okay. You don't have to limit it at 10. So if there's a couple good extra comps that you feel like doing 12, or let's say you only get 3 or 4 really good comps, but they're very solid, that's okay. I'm saying if you're starting out and you don't know how many to include, try to keep it 10 or less, but definitely keep it more than 3 to 4. Right? Don't ever just include one comp. Definitely reach out and expand your criteria. Should there be a ratio? He said, should there be a ratio to include active, pending, sold? So I always try to go back, and again, this is just me giving you advice. I try to make sure that there's at least one subject property in each of those columns, right? Because the actives doesn't really tell you where the market's going. It tells you what the market is right now. Right? Pendings, active under contract, and sold are going to tell you your actual hard evidence. Okay? So when it comes to appraisals, they're going to take much more weight and much more stock in your closed, in your active under contract a little bit. So just make sure that there's at least one in each category, in my opinion. At least one in each category. That's why I say do minimum of 3, right? Do a minimum of 3. Because you never want to include just a bunch of actives, right? Because it doesn't really tell
exactly.
you.
That's not telling the story. And I think it was the attorney the other day on the meeting was talking about some agents thinking that they should be able to use offers to help support the pricing. And he said, no, that doesn't show that it closed. You need something that closed. Just because people say they're willing to pay that price, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, I'm willing to pay $2 million on a home, but can I pre-qualify for $2 million? No. Not
so
right now.
Not closed.
Right. Not right now, not today. So writing offers, that doesn't mean anything. That means diddly, right? Okay, so Bruce, what if we don't have enough comps? So we talked a little bit about not knowing if you have enough comps, right? Sometimes it happens, but again, you can go at minimum, in my opinion, like 3 homes, Bruce. So expand your criteria a little bit if you don't have enough comps. Say there's not any 2-2s in the neighborhood, then maybe there's a bunch of 3-1s. What are the 3-1s prices at? Why are they priced that way? Call the listing agent, say, how did you price this home? Seriously, a lot of listing agents are going to be very transparent with you, and it's a very good way to build relationships outside of our offices in our community. If it's an agent outside, and say, I'm trying to learn, why is this home priced the way it is? Don't ever tell them you're going on a listing presentation, but say,
Right.
I'm a realtor in the area. I'm just learning some things. I'm just trying to get a better sense of the market. Why did you price your home the way you did? Or why did your seller price the home the way you did? Did you have any problems going under contract? Did you have a lot of offers on the home? That's going to give you a lot of feedback about where to go. And then again, Bruce, if you're still having problems, reach out to someone on your leadership. Reach out to your team leader. Reach out to your broker. Reach out to your assistant team leader. Reach out to your mentor or coach if you're a brand new agent or PC coach, because we're here to help you. If you're like, I just still can't find any comps, what do I do? We'll help walk you through it. Okay. How about any last comments? Deborah Bell, we're running on time.
Looks good.
Any last tips, tricks, comments?
Yes. And one thing on the MLS, if you went in and searched for comps, you can put in there how large of an area you want to be looking at. I don't know if it allowed us to do that today in the Cloud CMA. I don't recall seeing that. But you can search down to a quarter of a mile, and if you don't have enough comps, expand it to another half, and then a little further, a little further. I know an appraiser is going to move a little outside that area if they can't find enough comps. So, as she said, adjust the criteria. And I think, do we have one more question?
About it. Yeah. No, it's mainly comments. Because think about it. If you can't find comps, the appraiser is going to have a hard time finding comps.
That's right.
Right? So think about it that way, that you have to validate your choices and validate your advice and let your seller take the reins in regards to, again, ultimately it's the seller deciding the pricing. Right? It's the seller deciding the pricing. Okay, great. Well, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it. I hope you learned a little bit more than what you knew before you started this class. Again, thank you so much, Deborah Bell, for joining me. And everyone out there watching, go out there, practice your CMAs, be more confident, lean into having the forward living listing presentation ahead of you. It's going to make you look very, very professional. And really just go out there. Don't be scared. Be confident in your pricing and reach out when you feel like you need help. Okay? Excellent. Thank you guys. Have a good day. And I'll see you guys offline, hopefully.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you, Deborah and Holly.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You guys were awesome.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it. Good stuff.